Lesson 8.3, Volume of Spheres. What will we learn today? To find the volume of a sphere and hemisphere. Two vocabulary words, sphere, hemisphere. Key concept, volume of a sphere. The volume, V, of a sphere is, which is equals, 4/3, the product, which means to multiply, pi, and the cube of the radius r, which is r to the third power. As you can see here, here's a model of a sphere. And for the sphere volume, all we need is the radius. That's the only thing that's the unknown. And we get that from the line that goes from the center to any edge, and that's radius. And as you can see in symbols, V, which is volume, is equal to 4 divided by 3, or 4/3, times pi times radius cubed. Or V is equal to 4 times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next example. Example number 1, find the volume of the sphere. Round to the nearest tenth. Okay. So to find the volume, we're going to take V is equal to 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. Now the radius we're going to get from our sphere, from the middle to the edge, is our radius. So 6 millimeters is our radius. So let's plug this in over here. Well, before that, let me rewrite this formula. This formula, to make it easier, can be rewritten as 4 times pi times radius cubed over 3. This is especially important for using your calculator because it makes it easier to process. So let me substitute for the radius. So I have 6 to the third power divided by 3. Now 6 to the third power is, give me a second, 6 to the third power is 216. So let's change that to 216. So now on my calculator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 4 times pi times 216, which gives me 2714.33, which to the nearest tenth is 0.3, divided by 3. And I get a volume of 904.778, rounded to the nearest tenth. Look to the number to the right, which is 7 greater than 5. So my volume is going to be 904.8 cubic millimeters. A spherical stone in the courtyard of the National Museum of Costa Rica has a diameter of about 8 feet. Find the volume of the spherical stone. Round to the nearest tenth. So let's look at the formula for this sphere is volume 4 times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. Now the diameter is not part of the formula, but we can get the radius from the diameter by taking diameter divided by 2 gives us radius. So in this case I can take 8 divided by 2 gives me a radius of 4. So now that I have r is equal to 4, let me rewrite my formula. 4 times pi times 4 cubed divided by 3. 4 cubed is 64. So 4 times pi times 64, divide that by 3. So now my calculator, I'm going to enter 4 times pi times 64. And I get 804.2. I'm around 24. Divide that by 3. And I get 268.08. Rounded to the nearest tenth, 268.1. So the volume is 268.1 cubic feet. Example 3, a volleyball has a diameter of 10 inches. So D is equal to 10 inches. A pump can inflate the ball at a rate of 325 cubic inches per minute. Inflate rate 325 cubic inches per minute. How long will it take to inflate the ball? Round to the nearest 10. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to find the volume of the ball. And again, the volume tells us how much can fit into the ball. And we need to know, based on the volume, how long it's going to take to inflate this ball. So let's start with the volume of a volleyball, and it's in a sphere, so it's going to be 4 times pi times radius cubed over 3. And again, our diameter, so let's go back over here to the top. So from our diameter, we get our radius, the diameter divided by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our radius is 5. So let's rewrite this: 4 times pi times 5 cubed, which is pretty much 125 over 3. Okay, so now I'm going to use my calculator to multiply 4 times pi times 125, which gives me 1,570. Let me use a different color so we can distinguish that there. 1,570.79, or rather 2.8 divided by 3. And that gives me a volume of 523.59, so around the 523.6 cubic inches. Okay, so that's the volume. Now that's not our final answer, because what they're asking us is how long will it take to inflate this ball that's 523.6 cubic inches. So how long to inflate? So if it takes 325 cubic inches per minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 523.6 and divide by 325. And that should give me how many minutes it's going to take. And I get 1.61107, and everything else doesn't really matter because I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, which is, oops, not the 1, it's the 6. Look over to the 1, because 1 is under 5, I can say 1.6 minutes. That's my final answer. Example number 4, find the volume of the hemisphere. Round to the nearest 10. As you can see, a hemisphere is pretty much half a sphere. So if we are trying to find the volume of a hemisphere, we're looking for half the volume of the sphere. So the volume of a sphere is 4 times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. For the hemisphere, what we're going to do is then we're going to multiply it by 1/2. So let's find the real, well, they gave us the radius of 5. So let's plug it in. 4 times pi times 5 cubed divided by 3, and then I'm going to multiply that by 1/2. There is a shortcut to it. See if you can figure out the shortcut. It's very similar to how I did the shortcut of the formula, but I'm going to do this the long way so I can show you. So we know that 5 cubed is pretty much 125, so let me cross that out. And now my calculator, now I'm going to take 4 times pi times 125, which is 1,570.8. We saw that number in the previous example. divided by 3, and again multiplying by 1/2. So let's go back to the dividing by 3. So 1570.8 divided by 3 is equal to 523.59, so I'll make it 523.6 times 1/2, or half of 523.6. So I'm going to divide by 2, and that's going to equal 261.79, rounded, 261.8. Rounded to the nearest tenth, and we have cubic centimeters. So remember, this formula, or this answer that I got here, is for the sphere. Because I used the formula. This part right here was for the sphere. But because the hemisphere is half of it, that's where we divide by 1/2 to get 261.8 cubic centimeters. Last but not least, ticket out the door. Now remember, the ticket out the door you're going to do on formative. You can show your work on the paper, or that's where I would do it, on the note paper that you have. But you're going to answer on formative, what is the volume of a sphere with a diameter of 2 inches? Round to the nearest hint. Round to the nearest 10. I want to give you a hint. That's why I said hint there. Hint. Diameter is not part of the formula, but it helps you find something very important in the formula. If that does not make sense, go back, watch this video again. Good luck.